Not your average convo, not your average life. Not your everyday mother, not your typical wife. Not your usual podcast, this you will see. So hope that you will stop a while and spend some time with me.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad to see both of you. Caleb, great to be with you again. And Rene, wow. This is a perfectly timed conversation, not only because of all of the richness that you're going to bring, but we are a really interesting time in our nation and employment journey. So I'm so glad you're here. So welcome. So with that said, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rene Siegel, and these are two of my favorite people in the world, Caleb and Sarah. I am CEO and founder of a company called Connext, and we do marketing and communications consulting services for high-tech companies, primarily all throughout the Bay Area. And I've had this company for 23 years, wow, which is a long time. Definitely was not thinking long-term when I started the company. It was truly something that I needed to do for myself and my family at the time. I am admittedly a reluctant entrepreneur.
So I'm sure you didn't necessarily then, if it was reluctant, that's likely not, Rene, how your journey started. So when you were thinking about what you wanted to be when you grow up, what did you think? What was that gonna be when you were, just a couple years ago?
Oh, exactly. Well, let me back up a tiny bit. My parents both worked at the same company for 40-something years. They were interned during World War II as young children. They were they're third generation Japanese American. I'm fourth generation. But their families were interned, even though they were American citizens, and they were told, you need to be American. Forget the Japanese. Be a contributing member of society. So both of them ended up working at a government lab doing amazing work, but truly did not leave. That's the only jobs that they had. So I, being the oldest of three in my family, stability was the only message, right? Basic consistency and stability was paramount. Yeah. So I thought I would be just a great employee. I figured I'd work for someone else forever, not necessarily one company, but I would be just a great employee wherever I was, whatever career path that led me. So really, every time I changed jobs, and I did change jobs quite a few times, I had 6 different jobs over 10 years after college. My parents had a little heart attack. They were like, what the heck are you doing?
Totally.
And yet I was learning. I was making more money. I was expanding my network. Each time I made a move, it was because there was a new opportunity to grow and learn or follow someone I respected. And so I couldn't have planned it that way, Sarah, but it just, looking back, it was a tremendous way to build a very diverse, very, I feel like I've stayed on my toes, my tippy toes, my whole career.
Did you go to college?
Yep, I went to San Jose State. Tiny story there. I, again, being the oldest, go Spartans. My parents did not have 4-year degrees. They had technical degrees, 2-year technical degrees. And so when it came time to, at the end of high school to decide where to go to college, my parents really didn't know how to help or advise. And really, there were no other relatives that were also in the same, had that background. So I kind of applied for schools based on how nice the brochures were in the Career Center.
I hear you. Yeah.
And the career counselor was useless in high school. And amazingly, I got into some very great universities, including Cal and USC and Boston University and all the ones that had the really nice brochures. But the reality was there was no money. My parents were literally getting divorced at that time. And they're like, sorry, you're on your own. San Jose State was the least expensive. And so that's where I went. Had an amazing education. I actually entered as a chemical engineering major. And the reason was because I had no idea what I wanted to do, like most high schoolers. And my parents said, well, you're a woman, you're Asian, you're kind of smart. You should try engineering. You'll always have a job. Yeah. Engineers, you'll always have a job. You don't have to. I said, I don't know what the heck I do. I don't know an engineer.
Yeah.
But okay. And I dutifully checked the boxes and entered San Jose State. And truly, like day 4 of my chemistry for engineering class, semester 1, I was lost. I absolutely was like, what the hell did I do? So, yeah. So
did you graduate with that degree? Did you transition?
I did not graduate with that degree. And in fact, this is another interesting little story, but freshman year in the dorms, being away from home from my parents for the first time, I have to say I was a little rebellious. And after a few beers, some friends talked me into doing something really uncharacteristic for me. I entered a beauty pageant. There was a bulletin board in the dorm looking for Japanese American college students to enter the Cherry Blossom Festival pageant in San Francisco. And I spoke no Japanese. I still speak no Japanese. But again, being 18, away from home, paying for school by myself, I thought, what the heck? It'll be fun. I won't win. I'll just, try something new and really just have a different experience. And then I won. And I spent the better part of the year doing promotion. So I was working with, at the time, Mayor Feinstein of San Francisco. She was the mayor. I worked with Tony Bennett, the musician, the singer. I worked with celebrities all over. I traveled to Japan and to Hawaii with a crown on my head. Oh, wow. And I learned about promotion. I learned what it meant to promote or to do public relations or public affairs. I started to understand why the Japanese Chamber of Commerce was so important to Northern California. Meeting top executives and understanding that, again, communication was the foundation for all of these organizations. That opened my eyes. So after a year, I came back to San Jose State and changed my degree to public relations.
I love that. It's so amazing, right? Sometimes you just step into what's almost a lark and it just puts you on a path for possibility. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that wasn't exactly a popular decision, right? Going from engineering to public relations. People were like, what are you going to work at the complaint department at Macy's? Who's going to pay you to do that? Right? Like, what kind of job is that? And I didn't know at the time. I just knew that I was happy and it was kind of in my sweet spot and it was much more interesting than Fortran and chemistry.
So what happened after college?
Well, toward the end of my senior year, I knew that I wanted to work with technology. This was in the 80s, okay? So a little bit of a scary time, kind of the mid-80s. Silicon Valley was ramping up. And while my other fellow graduates and seniors were looking for jobs with the 49ers or Great America or something cool and fun, I was like, those engineers don't scare me. I know that they're just like everyone else. They're really smart and they need someone to translate the complex into stories, into something that people actually care about. And I said, I got that. I'm not worried. So my first job was with a startup company in Mountain View that did baseband networking. I had no idea what the hell that was, but I loved working with the people there and was there for 6 months before I was laid off for my very first job.
Oh, so let's pause right there. So it's we're in the time of the pandemic where this is, we're at the beginning of May. This has been an incredible time, if not just even an incredible week. of layoffs. Airbnb and a number of tech companies this week have announced. And it's been a real smack to many about what to do with their lives, and very, very frightening. What talk through that experience in a way that perhaps can also shed light on the reality that this is not a new normal. This always happens, but also sort of how did you come through that? Because I think if we can pause for a minute there, it will help many.
Absolutely. Well, I was shocked, and it was devastating. It was a startup company that wasn't going through a global situation. They had not gotten additional funding. It was it was isolated to that company. It wasn't like all of Silicon Valley was hurting at that time. It was truly just one company. So I didn't see it coming. I didn't have any kind of emotional warning sign, right? Like we're all in this pandemic, but we know things are going to change, and some aren't going to be good, unfortunately. So this was maybe in a way even a greater shock. I was the newest employee in the door, 6 months in. So it was, and I was the only one let go from my entire department. So those feelings combined I felt very alone. I felt devastated. I felt personally just lost again, right? I just got my job, and it was different if like many people in my department had been laid off, but no, it was just me. And so I think, after some grieving, which I think is very, very healthy, I think you need to grieve a little. It's completely normal to be emotionally devastated and to take some time. But then you have to be kind to yourself. And you have to try not to take it personally. In this situation, it made sense that I was the youngest and the last in the door. So I could understand that it wasn't personal. But most companies, are going through right now significant changes and having to make strategic decisions that may not make sense to their employees. And it may not even be able to be shared with them. So I'm aware of people who are in very key roles, who are working on very strategic projects, who are all of a sudden let go. I think 20 million unemployed for the month of April alone. We just heard today, right? It's devastating to not have some rationale, to not even understand why me, right? When the person next to me hasn't been working very hard, right? So you may have that initial grief period, but you need to move past that as quickly as possible. Again, be kind to yourself, and then look for the opportunities. And that's every person, their time frame to get there is going to vary, right?
Yeah.
But I think at some point you have to kind of pull yourself together and start looking for things that you can do that are positive to move you forward for new opportunities.
I want to hit on some of those, and I'm hopeful that you have some tips for us. But I want to make sure that I also then sort of get to where you are today. So then, if you can hit on some of them, the highlights. So did you stay in PR? Did you then move within corporations, startups? Like, did you ultimately know you wanted to be a business owner? Like, was it a straight path? I think understanding the journey can be really helpful.
It was the most convoluted, crazy-ass journey that you can imagine. So I went from startup. My next job was with a PR and advertising agency. I was there for another 6 months. I was not let go. I was actually lured away by another company, a technology company. Okay. So again, you can imagine what the parents are doing during this time. I moved from that technology company, which is where I met my husband, to another startup later. In fact, I returned from our honeymoon, having gotten married to my husband, and a week after we both returned, we both lost our jobs. The startup that I was with lost their funding, and his company also was having cutbacks. So as a couple, we got married, both lost our jobs, and bought a house all in 1 month.
Oh my gosh.
little resilience built up over the years. But again, so I went from that small startup to a medium-sized technology company, and later to a larger software company. From there, and I'll try to finish this story as quickly as possible, by then I started having children. I ended up having 3 children in 5 years, which sounded like a good move at the time. Got a little crazy when they were all in college at the same time. But after having my first child, I went back to work full-time at the software company, and I was traveling a considerable amount to launches, trade shows, press tours, things like that. And it really bothered me that I was away from home so much, and that the nanny was helping to raise my child.
Yeah, it's hard.
And there was a pivotal moment. I can actually pinpoint the moment where I decided I needed to make another change. And I was pregnant, very pregnant, like 9 months pregnant with my daughter, my second child. And there was a huge launch in New York City that was between 3 CEOs, 3 huge companies coming together on a giant partnership. And it was my launch. So I had already called in every favor. I had every press person, every analyst that I knew promising to show up in New York City in this auditorium for a 9 a.m. launch. Mm-hmm. On the dress rehearsal, the night before, which was around midnight, 1 a.m., when we finally flew the executives in, had them on stage, we're working through the AV, there was an argument over by the brownie table. Literally, the 3 CEOs had a discussion that turned ugly, and the deal was off. The deal fell apart midnight during the dress rehearsal, and the show was supposed to go on at 9 a.m., and that was my launch. Yeah, and I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm wearing a headset. I'm sitting in the audience, orchestrating everything, and then I needed to spend the entire rest of that wee hours of the morning rewriting all the press materials.
Oh, my mercy.
Q&A, PowerPoint presentation, and basically the launch went on with our CEO alone at a fraction of the impact that was promised to these journalists and analysts. And I remember standing at a 24-hour copy shop in New York City in a suit and heels, 9 months pregnant, tears in my eyes, thinking I haven't eaten, I haven't slept, my poor unborn child's health is at risk. This is crazy. And I did my job. There was so much that was out of my control. Just like there's so much that's out of control for people in this time. There's so much. And so that feeling of being helpless, of being not in control of your destiny, of your livelihood, I know that feeling. And so, yeah, we stumbled through the best we could. I came back and I said, I'm going to have this second child. I'm not coming back. I don't care if I can't find a job, whatever, but there has to be an option that gives me more control, mm-hmm. more flexibility mm-hmm. to be not just a great PR, marketing, communications person, mm-hmm. but also a great mother, because I don't want to outsource the parenting role. Mm-hmm. This is important enough. And I was scared. I was terrified. I thought, no, pay me to do anything. My husband was terrified. You need 2 incomes in the Bay Area to raise a family. And I'll happily tell you that I reached out to 3 friends from the 6 companies that I had worked with over 10 years. I reached out to 3 friends. I immediately started getting contract work. You name it, a launch plan, an event plan, a single press release, you name it, I took it on.
Yeah.
In the very first year as being a freelancer, I doubled my corporate salary. The next year, I tripled it, working for myself.
And so is that how Connext was born?
Yeah, that was the segue to Connext, because what I realized while I was taking on all this work, now I'm staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning again. Well, that's not good. There's more important things than money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my sanity, my family time, I was there for baths and story time, but I go back to work at 10:30.
Yeah, I get it.
That's not healthy. So I started to basically give away all the projects that were coming to me. No commission, no fee. I would literally just reach out and hand up $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 projects to colleagues who were also consulting. Again, this was late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, mid 90s. So this was the catalyst because I realized I had more fun talking to my overworked corporate colleagues who were like, Rene, we need you. Oh my gosh, we can't hire. And I was like, you need to talk to Sue. You need to talk to Bill. And I would literally connect them. No commission, no fee, just because it made me feel great to help friends.
Yeah.
So I did that for a few years while I was still freelancing and then decided there's a need in the market. This isn't just keyword matching. This is relationships. This is soft skills. This is really knowing the personality and the corporate environment because I had been there and knowing what kind of outside expertise, contract expertise, and personality would fit with my friends.
So how do you define Connext?
Connext is that magic that happens when you are truly engaged and care at a level that is deeply personal and human.
And what does the business do? What is it? Would you define it as a PR firm?
No. So we actually are a resource, a one-stop shop for the best marketing and communications and PR, digital marketing, contractors, freelancers, consultants. They're all interchangeable. All of those are interchangeable in the Bay Area. And we specialize in supporting corporate teams.
Got it.
So clients could be startups all the way to the largest technology companies. And when their team has someone on maternity leave or can't fill a headcount, can't refill some position where someone's left, or simply has some world-changing new project that gets dumped on them and they need some extra support, we bring people in who have anywhere from recent grad to 20-plus year experience.
Now, speaking of recent grads, you're not only doing Connext, right?
Correct. I'm
tell me through this.
Yeah, for the past 4 years now, I've been an adjunct professor at San Jose State teaching a PR case studies class. And I remember taking that class when I was there. I hated it. It was my least favorite class, which was the motivation to make it a much better class now. And Caleb's one of my students. I think I'm a very unconventional professor because I can bring the real world experience, what the real world looks like beyond the diploma. And I'm very comfortable sharing that with students and making sure that they're prepared. So yeah.
Did she improve the class, Caleb?
Yes. I kind of describe Rene as a professor that isn't like most, but also I think there is this, I wouldn't call it weird, but like vibe that you get from a lot of professors that it's almost like competition. You can't get to them. They're so shut off and reserved to their students, and to me, as someone who's looking for guidance, stepping into a workplace, it's like, well, why would you be that way? I know you're trying to teach me a lesson or whatever, but I just want to be able to pick someone's brain or for them to, open themselves up. And so like the first day we step into class in that case studies class, you basically kind of shared that, those few stories that you shared today with us. And, I think it was one of those moments, I think you had a tear in your eye, and it was one of those just humanizing moments. You're like, wow, I'm actually in a space where, she gives a shit, and we started talking about everybody's personal stories. And that was the first assignment, that I struggled with. But, like if we kind of take a little snapshot of where I've came in the last 7-8 months, I think a lot of it is thanks to you just kind of opening yourself up. And then also, hey, I have this marketing company, by the way, as well, that, can help you get internships. And in the PR department at San Jose, that's one of the prerequisites to graduate. And that was the most stressful thing that I had to go through during college, was trying to secure something like that or step into the workplace without a whole lot of experience. And having outlets like and resources like you, I think is so unmatched to a lot of professors, and I think it's something I'm really grateful for. But that's how we met.
And when I met Sarah and we connected immediately and just bonded over a coffee, right, or a tea. And Sarah was so generous, about wanting to meet students and kind of connect with students and share some of her experience. And I just thought, oh my gosh, again, the best part of my job is when I meet like-minded people, right? You go through life, you meet all kinds of people. You have to find your tribe. You want to find your peeps, the people who get you, right? And so Sarah and I immediately connected. And when she offered to come speak to my class, I immediately took her up on that. But, she also offered to mentor students. And Caleb, out of 21 students in the class, you were the only one who followed up, who actually came to me and said, I would like an introduction. How do I do this? Do I reach out to her? And truly, the opportunities are there. There are many opportunities for people, for students specifically too, but also for seasoned professionals to reach out to someone who may or may not have a job for you today, but may connect you to someone else. And that's what Connext is for me, right? It is this community. It's the ability to pull in and leverage like-minded, generous people who truly just want to lift others. Because I believe there's room for all of us. In fact, our little tagline is best work, best life. And we think everyone deserves both. So when I think back to that pivotal moment of me being pregnant and trying to handle that launch, and really the company didn't care about me and the work that went into that or the health of my child. I have to fight for what I want. You fought for what you wanted, Caleb. And because of that, you now have a relationship, another connection with a mentor in Sarah. And Sarah, I'm sure you feel like Caleb's also your mentor.
Absolutely. I think, it's so interesting when people talk about mentoring or I'm always very reluctant to use the mentor mentee word because I never like the hierarchy of it. I just feel like we're working together. I learn as much from Caleb or from the other people who I have the pleasure of working with. They grow me in such a way. Like I came to you and said, let's have coffee. I think I'm supposed to know you.
Right.
Connect. We brainstormed. I got to go to your class. In the meantime, your team said, hey, we need people to work with our students. I said, yes. I meet Caleb. We talk about what he wants to learn, what I want to learn. And now we're doing this show in a way that is filling our hearts, rewarding, and hopefully bringing messaging to others that's going to help them. So this is all stepping in. This is all stepping in where a door opens. And sometimes you don't even know why. I told you I wanted to have coffee. And I just kept saying, I don't know why. I don't know why. Other than I think I like you, but I keep feeling in my heart like I'm supposed to know you and there's something that's going to come of this. And sometimes it just does. And so you just have to trust. Anyway, I won't get into my pulpit, but I think that there's just a lot of you just have to, sometimes you don't even need an excuse. You just need to reach out.
Right. And you honored me by sharing that, right? That's a compliment to me. I don't know what gifts I have to share with you, but let's figure it out together. Yeah. That's a very generous thing for you to say. Caleb honored you, Sarah, by being the student who went out of his way to say, I care enough. I want to learn from you. What can I do? And understand how busy you are, but still, take advantage of that generosity. So I think those are the kinds of things that during this time specifically, right? It's hard enough in general, but now more than ever, it's really important to reach out to other people. So, I think many of my mentors are in their 20s, including my daughter, who is an Instagram influencer and who calls me out on my Instagram bio and suggests things for me. And I'm like, bring it on. I love it. I want to stay current. I want to stay relevant. And that's not something that I think many seasoned professionals, people of my age, I will say, I think they become fearful. They get behind the curve a little bit and they just think, oh, I'm not doing this social media thing, or I'm just, what, this, it's Instagram, it's TikTok, whatever. Try it. Why not? Find a young person like a Caleb or my daughter, and ask them and honor them for their knowledge and expertise. It honors them, right? So especially during this time, yeah, it's not about, oh, just go find somebody who might have a job for you. It could be your college friend's parent who has that job or opportunity, right? There's so many people that want to help right now.
I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. There was something that you mentioned earlier with your parents and how, like the old way of thinking was you stick in one career and that's your lane. And I've kind of dealt that a little bit as well with my parents and with family. And you get cornered in these questions of, well, what do you want to do? And it's every single question right now. I mean, and it's the nature of being a college graduate or about to be a college graduate and be someone. So what's next? So what's next? And, some people will, oh yeah, I mean, I want to jump to this. I want to do that. And they're like, they kind of look at you funny. Was there a point in time where you knew you had your parents on board being like, okay, they trust me to just make a decision to pivot, to go to the next career? Was there like a moment where you're like, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm going to just like.
I don't think I cared, to be honest. Remember, 18, I got the heck out of the house. I said, what the heck? I'm going to do this crazy beauty pageant. I waitressed and sprayed perfume on people and telemarketed to pay for college. I frankly, no disrespect to my parents, but they had their lives and their struggles. And I realized that I needed to count on myself. I needed to struggle and fall and pick myself up and make decisions that worked for me. And when I realized that I wanted to spend more time with my children, and the big company that I went to, there was no job sharing. There was no extra work from home one day a week. There was no flexibility. And there was tons of travel in my role. I realized that was a dead end. It was a great company, great benefits. I was making good money. I had a good title. But there were things that trumped all of that. And that was that I wanted a life, a family that was going to work for me. Mm-hmm. And so I literally, it was a dead end. And when you get to that dead end, you can sit there. I like to think of Roombas, the little vacuum, the little robot vacuum. You can sit there and get stuck against the chair or the wall and just kind of like stir right there all by yourself. Or you can freaking back your ass up and bounce off and try another direction. And you know what? Nobody's going to tell you which is the right direction. You just got to bounce off and try something. And you're going to meet new people and you're going to have new experiences, and you may bump into another wall and get stuck, and you're going to back up and keep going. So when I say 6 jobs in 10 years, I kind of was a little bit millennial-esque for my time, right? I don't know that my parents ever approved, but that didn't stop me. When I started making more money and was able to buy a house, they were like, I guess she's doing okay. But again, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for me. Right. And everyone should, because to me, each person gets to define what success means to them. There's no formula for that. And during the course of your life, stuff happens. Crazy stuff happens. I had a psycho business partner who embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars from my company. My father-in-law had Alzheimer's. He and my mother-in-law were living in Florida and nobody was taking care of them. We literally flew them and 62 boxes of belongings from Brooklyn to our house to live with us and our 3 children when my children were small, and took care of them for a couple of years. Stuff happens to everyone. And you need to be that Roomba. You've got to change the plan. You adjust along the way. And I don't believe that you need to get approval from anyone. that answer your question?
Yeah.
That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
Hey, Rene. So I think a lot of people right now, this whole program is about finding what is your fuel in order to really be in that sweet spot of career, like taking your talents and being on a journey that's powerful and rewarding. But I think a lot of people right now are also feeling like maybe they don't have a choice because the economy is so challenging and daunting.
Sure.
So I want to get really clear on whatever the headspace is of people, whether they're graduating, getting ready to think about what that next step is, coming out of school, or perhaps they've been laid off. Can you just kind of talk us through some top tips of what anyone can do right now or anytime, in order to be ready and well poised to step into their future confidently?
Absolutely. In fact, I just worked on a little bit of a Q&A because I get asked this question quite a bit. So I'm gonna run through a list.
Great.
If you don't mind. The first one is you own your personal brand. And your personal brand is, how you look, what's on your resume. But more than that, it's also your LinkedIn profile. So if your resume hasn't been updated for a few years, I guarantee you that things have changed and the expectations for what should be on a resume have changed. For example, no street addresses on resume because of privacy issues. That your LinkedIn profile link should be at the top of your resume now. That didn't exist a few years ago, right? So if you're in the market and you need to update your resume, those are two things off the top of my head that are different, that will show that you're current, okay? LinkedIn, absolutely huge. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you don't exist in the business world. It just is a huge glaring error. If I see your resume, type in your name in LinkedIn, and if you don't pop up, you're dead to me, right? It says you're not staying current at all. So this is a perfect time. There are all kinds of free courses and tips. We have a tip sheet that we're happy to share with people as well for both resume and LinkedIn, okay? I think it's a really badass move if you've been recently let go from a company or whatever, to just blow their minds and send everyone you worked with a thank you note. Like, thank them for the experience that you had. Thank them for what you learned from them. Blow their minds, okay? Take that to the next level and ask for a recommendation from those colleagues on LinkedIn. But the way you do that, because I know that's kind of uncomfortable, right? Asking for someone to give you something and you're not sure what they're going to say. The secret here is that you give them one first. So if you've left a company, you go and type up an amazing conversational, full of, lovely voice recommendation, and you send it via LinkedIn to them, unsolicited. It will blow their minds. And then, of course, you can ask if they feel comfortable providing one in return. Who's going to say no to that? Nobody. Okay. The next is, if you have just come out of a full-time job, but you would love to maybe try contracting, freelancing, consulting, reach out to all the colleagues that you've worked with and ask them. Say, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I'm not sure when the next permanent role is going to come along, but in the meantime, if you need me for some project work, if I can help you or put together a quick event or support your team, happy to do so. Can I work with you on a contract basis? Okay, so that's another great way to get experience without making that full-time employment commitment. It's easier and faster to get in there. I would also say, we talked about the mentoring. Find mentors who are of a different generation. We're all working from home. Sit in your backyard and FaceTime with someone, right, whom you've admired, whom you've worked with. Mm-hmm. People are creating time right now that they're not in the cars. It could be at 9 o'clock at night. It could be a Saturday, right? I think there are a lot of people doing that. Again, great way to expand your network. Offer to do pro bono work for your favorite nonprofit. If you are passionate about a cause, a nonprofit or some organization that's maybe struggling right now, offer to help in any way. Work on their newsletter,
Yep.
some photos, do some social media for them, things that you can do remotely. They are be so grateful. You get something else on your resume. You have something else to talk to the next employer about as well. So anything in that area where you're giving, right, to a pro bono. It could also be a small local business, right? If there's a restaurant, your favorite, brewery, local microbrewery or something, right? Help them send out word about what they're doing during this time. And then I think the last one is that, a sheer informational interview request right now, I guarantee you're going to get 90+% people saying yes, right? They don't have to put shoes on. They don't have, it could be any time. And right now, those informational interviews, creating those connections are going to lead to something down the future. I think that's networking in the pandemic, right?
That's a lot. And we will absolutely make sure that everybody has a list to these tips and that they know how to get them, and we'll share them. Because I've counted at least 7 here, but one of them I think that probably that I have that I would add or even sort of put under one of these steps is ask for every person that you know to introduce you to 2 to 3 more people, because this is a whole web of community, right? So I knew somebody at work, she introduced me to you, you introduced me to Caleb, I introduced you to people at work. Like, that's how it works. We're all just a part of a truly wonderful interwoven web of community. And for as much as you will stand on your own merit, it really is largely about who you know, who they know, and how you do build that network of relationship and community. But don't assume that it's going to come. You do have to step in, and when the door opens, be ready.
Absolutely. As my grandmother, who lived to 100, told me, she said, "Nothing ever comes to you. You have to go get it." And, when I heard that in, elementary school, it was a simple enough form for me to hang on to through all these years. Which is why, when you're that Roomba, right, and you hit that wall, you got to it's up to you. You can't just sit there and wait for someone to lift you up. So I think this is absolutely the who you know is what's propelled me in my career. The fact that I had many jobs benefited me when I started my business. And over the years, I've been amazed at even my internship. That was a long time ago. I did an internship at the Chevron Public Affairs Department in San Francisco when I was at San Jose State. So yes, they made you do an internship all the way back then, Caleb. So that was oil industry. And I was amazed that when I started my business, and I started Connext, that colleagues who were very well established in their careers were then reaching out to me. I was the intern back then, but now I had a company that could help them. That's amazing. So the contacts that you made, Caleb, working right with Sarah, those people, you have no idea how they're going to end up at another company later, and they're going to hunt you down because of the kind of person you were and the work that you did.
I have kind of another career advice type question. So as a college graduate in the next week or two, and obviously trying to step into this workforce where it's, a lot of companies are on hiring freezes, we might kind of see the nature of the workplace change a little bit, as far as there's more, I think there will be more work from home opportunities. And so what kind of advice do you give people my age who, just went through 6 months of Zoom classes for the first time ever, and so they're learning how to adjust, but are you hesitant to be like, I think you should be in the workplace? Or, how do you guys kind of view where this is headed, and maybe how you navigate that as a young professional?
I think this is amazing. I think the fact that we can work remotely and not be on the freeways is tremendous. My perspective is that, again, it's a terrible pandemic, but there are some benefits and some beautiful observations that have come out of this, right? Which is, yeah, we don't all have to get into our cars and drive for 2 hours each way to work together, to collaborate. There are for our business, I will say, because obviously if you're in the medical, the medical industry, or if you're in hospitality, I mean, there are times when you need to be there in person. But for the vast majority of our colleagues, I think that this technology is exactly validating what we're talking about. We can still have relationships. We can still collaborate. We can still reach people all around the globe using technology. And whether I'm teaching or whether I'm talking to a client or whether I'm collaborating with my team, this technology has enabled us to do it so seamlessly, so cost effectively, that I think there's going to be just even more adoption, right? We're not going to go back. We're not going to go back exactly to the way we were. In fact, with my company, I've got 7 other team members who are all over the Bay Area, including down to San Diego. And we've talked about the fact that we're operating at maximum efficiency right now. We truly are. And what are we going to do? Because we're paying for a lease in an office that's empty. And so I don't know. Teaching is a scary thing for me. I'm going to be back in August teaching that class. And because I didn't teach this semester, Caleb, I'm a little nervous. But I think just like anything else, I'm going to adapt. I know how to use Zoom. The students hopefully are going to be as engaged, sharing their presentations with their classmates via Zoom. I think it's great training for the corporate world that they're going to step into.
Rene, I so appreciate your optimism and everything that you shared here. I just want to close on perhaps just one last iteration of that spirit, which is, what is your outlook for the future?
Oh my gosh. I am an optimist. This is a little bit of a jarring time, to say the least, but good things, I know, are always, there are always possibilities. And I refuse to be sucked into the negativity. I'm not watching the news so much anymore. I'm making sure that my family is safe and healthy. I'm making sure that my clients and employees and colleagues are safe and healthy. I am very optimistic for our business because of the relationships that we have. They don't require us to show up in suits and give presentations in a boardroom to a company. The people who know us are going to continue to come to us. We have the social media skills to stay visible, virtually visible. And I think for me, the entire world, Mother Nature, the universe, whoever we believe in spiritually, is kind of hit a big reset button, because the earth is healing. People are bonding. They're spending time with their families. I think people are pausing to reflect on what's important, which is health and family, loved ones. It's taking care of where we live. And all of that, to me, is beautiful. It's horrible that it's come at the cost of many lives. But I'm really hopeful that there will be so many significant changes that come out of this. And so I believe job opportunities. People aren't limited by location anymore. And if companies are looking for the very best, they're going to be able to have access to those people now. And they know that it works. So that's less pollution, less time on the road, more productivity, right? I'm pretty excited that our business model is kind of coming into its own, that it validates, yeah, you can have the best and they don't have to be driving for hours sitting next to you. So I say bring it on.
I so thank you for your optimism. Caleb and I are so grateful that you introduced us and that we're able to introduce people to you today. We're going to share your tips because I know a lot of people will need them. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you.
So I hope that you will stop a while and